Education. I will now ask Commissioner Price to lead us in a word of prayer.
Good morning. Bow your heads, please. Thank you, God, for these and our many blessings. Amen.
Amen. Will everyone please stand as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic. One nation, indivisible.
Dr. Purcell, please call the roll.
Miranda Cross,
Here.
Charles Bunton,
Here.
Ann Sermon,
Here.
Jody Spingleton,
Present by video.
Timothy Guyan, here, Paul Kennedy,
Here.
Amy Price,
Here.
Larry Turner,
Here.
Dan Pilot,
Here.
Dan Nelson,
Here.
Rod Scott.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum and everybody is in attendance.
Thank you. Everyone should have had time to review the agenda. Chair entertains a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any comments or questions? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. Agenda is approved. Everyone should also have had time to review the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? Chair entertains a motion to approve the minutes of the December 9th, 2022 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. Minutes are approved. I'd like to take a moment now to welcome any guests we have in the audience. I see that we have Mr. John Killingsworth, President of Jacksonville State University. Please stand. Thank you. Is there anyone else here? Thank you. Now we'll turn it over to Dr. Purcell for the Executive Director's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, we just sort of want to do an overview of some fun things. For those of you that are on the board, I think we sent this report out. Priorities for raising college student success in the South. For those of you in the audience, this is really a good report about how we should help college students become successful in the modern age. There were 3 people on that committee from Alabama, including myself. I got to serve on a panel when we presented it out nationally, so it was quite fun. But it's really about making sure that our graduates are ready for the world of work that has changed. COVID-19 actually sped up automation. Since we couldn't get anybody to reliably show up at our restaurants or at work or anything or hospitals, we just decided that the machines do it. And we have to align our programs to this new reality and think about how we do that. One of the things they talked about is this idea that perhaps we should help students more one-on-one, sort of identify their particular needs. So to me, that's going to be the changing nature of higher ed in our country. Here are basically the recommendations that were given. I'll highlight 3 of them. Lower the student and family college cost burden. As you know, that's a big issue. Alabama has been gouging students for a long time. And it's not really because the institutions want to do that. It's because the state support has declined proportionally over the last couple of years, probably last 2 decades. And then student success, they actually work with the students so that they understand what kind of supports they need at the institution. When we had conversations with this group, we found out that some campuses didn't necessarily have a social climate that was supportive of students. But it seemed to me that the conversation showed that it was different for different institutions. And we really need to sort of get feedback from the students that are actually attending our institutions. And then increase the focus on current and future workforce needs. Definitely making sure that we're aligning to the needs of the local community, the state and region, and to help everybody have the skill sets to be successful in the future. We have gone around and y'all have seen this a few times to talk about the Education Workforce Needs Index. We've now talked to people in all of our regions twice. One new thing we did, as you saw, we did this where we compare the region. This is region 1. Sheriff Frost, you get to be the extra service, you get to see region 1, which is the Huntsville area, to show where you are doing quite well. As you can see, the unemployment rate, you have the lowest unemployment rate, we have less of a need there, whereas the rest of the state looks like we have some issues. And the same thing with, economic prosperity and stuff. So we look at these regions, but the nice thing that we've been able to do with the data is actually break it down into the sectors within that region. So that region may show a bunch of counties, but populations are denser in different places. So now we can actually compare the 100,000 people that live in the center of Huntsville and the suburbs, and then out in the rural setting, to really help the workforce people and our institutions to better understand what are the dynamics that are impacting. So this is all the 100,000 populations in the whole country and where they are doing for related to annual income for their themselves and the level of education. And you can see there's still this strong correlation between education and economic prosperity. So that's always important for us in higher education, understanding how important our role is. If you actually look at Alabama, you will see these little micro regions and see where everybody is. The yellow, which is a micro region where Vestavia and Mountain Brook is, they're always the bellwether for things in the state. And then you can sort of see where the other regions are. So for your area, Chair Frost, you can see that region 1 way down at the bottom there, which is the counties, DeKalb, Jackson County, is where the lowest economic prosperity is. They have lowest education and they have lowest income. So you can sort of definitely see the relationship there. The solutions for different communities locally will even actually be very different based on their economic needs. And we provide for all your subregions comparisons to how they look compared to the rest of the country's region. So this is percentage of high school diploma, and notice that we have in Jackson counties have a very high population that only have a high school diploma, and thus that's going to impact their ability to be economically prosperous. Whereas if you look at percentage with associate's degree, Coleman and Winston County do much better. Now, Coleman and Winston County, along with Dothan, Wallace, Hansville, and Wallace, Dothan produced a heck out of associate degrees. So those two counties have more than probably 95% of all counties. And you can sort of see on this data how dense the availability of associate degrees are in the population, which is cool. And then you'll definitely see that people living in Huntsville North, that neck of the woods are those overeducated, yuppie engineers who are buying all the fancy cars and living in the fancy houses. And that's because almost half of those have a bachelor's degree or higher. So it really provides you some information. I won't go into all the detail on this, but those of you in the audience want to sort of see what we can bring to you regarding this. We are glad to come. We'll do small weddings, parties, funerals, whatever, to discuss these things. And it's really good information. Now, we do have some staff changes. Outreach coordinator, Michael Walker Jones, who was helping us with the workforce stuff for the last couple of years, is now going to be moving over to be the executive director of the Alabama HBCU Consortium. And there's his contact information. I'll leave it on here if you need to have it. If not, you can just email me and I can give you contact information. Give you an update on All in Alabama, which is our big initiative. The first one, Retain Alabama, we do have a follow-up survey where we survey the people at the schools, again, to sort of see what their perceptions are, whether they changed any yet, and they haven't. So they still have similar reasons for not wanting to stay in the state, those that were wandering off. And what they value important is similar. They like our nature. They like a lot of aspects of our state, but not everything. It's a very interesting report. The next one is the Recall Alabama. As you remember, that was for us getting the information from our campuses. They gave us the last 10 years of graduates. We have now collected that information and we have direct communications to them across the country saying, hey, would you want to hear about opportunities in your state, in your major, as they come up, and we are engaging with them. And then we've definitely re-engaged Alabama, as hopefully will be in the budget at the end of the session, and hopefully perhaps at the beginning, where we can start to provide some greater support for adults who need to upskill so they can have better access to better jobs. we have every year we do a student civil rights event at Alabama State. Alabama State was actually where a lot of the civil rights movement for students started, Dixon versus Alabama. When students had gone off campus, they were protesting something in the community. And when they got back, they were told, you are suspended. And then they took them to court. 3 years later, the courts ruled that you can't do that. You can't take away someone's constitutional rights just because they're a student. And that's sort of how students became and had the ability to more advocate for things, whereas in previous generations that never happened. And related to that, I wanted to talk about the Republican Party had done a resolution earlier in the week that wanted to restrict some activities on our campuses. And sort of want to give you the whole scan of what's happening in the country around that and what my perspective on that is. So there's the resolution. There's legislation connected to this. Diversity, equity, and inclusion to really not be allowed. And they've sort of done this in some other states. Diversity, equity statements, meaning hiring, asking people to not do certain things. As you know, Governor DeSantis has done a lot of stuff in Florida, Texas. So the question is, what will we do in Alabama, whether that's problematic or not? And how a higher ed community is addressing it. There is a bill, House Bill 7, that's already up, and in the synopsis, and it's important so you can sort of see the synopsis, it actually says public institutions for higher education are restricted from promoting or endorsing or requiring affirmation of certain divisive concepts related to race, sex, and or religion. And that is in the synopsis, which is not actionable law. But interestingly, in it, Section 4 gives us a caveat that says that institutions are not prevented from teaching or discussing divisive concepts as long as there is no endorsement or expectation that they have to agree to those thoughts. Collecting data required for federal reporting, which we do. We have to collect data on different populations and their successes in the institutions, and that's been happening since 1965. Teaching topics in a historically accurate content text, and then promoting free speech rights or academic freedom for students and employees. So you can sort of see that the rhetoric in the synopsis, which isn't law, is much more powerful than actually what is stated in the legislation. And we have to think about the repercussions on our campuses about that. The other thing that it says to me is we're sort of dealing with an elected officials that sort of are changing their mind over time, because in 2019, this office and many of our campuses had a long discussion about free speech, and the Republicans leadership worked hard to make sure that there was free speech in the campus. And it says in that particular bill, freedom of expression is critically important during the educational experience of students, and each public institution of higher education should ensure free, robust, and uninhibited debate and deliberation by students. So what happened in the last 3 or 4 years is a question. So here are my thoughts. I think that there is no better curriculum for preparing people for the real world than a curriculum that requires students to think critically about real world issues, including topics such as diversity, equity, and inclusion. Colleges should create a safe environment where persons are encouraged to explore new ideas, develop socially, and are recognized by their talents above all else. Topics discussed in the public square should become a part of the dialogue occurring on college campuses, inspiring students to reflect on different perspectives. Because in the future, they're going to solve these problems that we're all addressing. And I find a college environment as safe a place as you can. We certainly can't do it at Thanksgiving. We, hardly do it in other settings. So our society must consistently evaluate how we engage with another, or we may easily find ourselves advancing a non-productive sequence of decisions embodying unconscious bias, injustice, and exclusion. My entire career as an assessment officer and in institutional research was we had to report differing impacts to the federal government on that. And that's how you improve your processes, is by starting with different stars. So discussion about that and understanding that, I think, is an important part of higher education experience. And for me, it's really about what this country is about. We should continuously seek to live out the promise in the Constitution's preamble to build a more perfect union. The Constitution said it, we aren't perfect as we build this, and we want you to always continually to improve our governance as we move along. And we need to have these real conversations about what it means to be an American and what it means to live in a society and be respectful of each other. So those are my thoughts on that. And I'll be glad to take any questions before we go on to the next item.
Thank you, Dr. Purcell. A more perfect union. I like that. Next, we'll have a discussion item, which will be presented by Dr. Hood, Employment Outcomes Report.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. It's my pleasure to be with you this morning to discuss the 2022 Employment Outcomes Report. In my mind, this is one of the most important. Thank you, Nikisha. In my mind, this is one of the most important reports that the Commission publishes because it links real graduation data with real labor data to really highlight the relationships among degree attainment, average salary, and workforce development. And it clearly shows, I think, as you'll agree, as you look through the report, it clearly shows how our education is driving the state's workforce and economy. So this slide looks at the percentages of Alabama employment or retention, if you will, by degree level for 5 years. So this looks at the number of students or graduates who stay in the state 5 years following graduation. And I want to point out a few things about this slide. You'll notice that we retain about 7 out of 10 of our associate degree graduates after 5 years, and we retain about roughly 5 out of 10 of our baccalaureate graduates after 5 years. But I want to mention the impact of non-resident students on these percentages. You can see for associate degrees, which are typically awarded at community colleges enroll on average less than 2% of their students are non-resident. So those folks are going to remain in state. When you look at our research universities in 2012, and this trend started, about 14.8% of our students were non-resident, and about in 2015, that percentage grew to about 18.6%. So what this shows, what those percentages show, particularly at the advanced degree levels, is the number of non-resident students. Does that make sense? So that's why those percentages are going down, because we've got an increased number of non-resident students. And in most cases, those folks after graduation, they return home to their home state. But this slide looks at those percentages by residency. You can see here clearly at the advanced levels where most of those non-residents are returning back to their home state. But here you'll notice that we retained about 75% of our Alabama natives at the associate degree level, and we retained about 61% of our Alabama natives at the baccalaureate degree level. So this slide looks at the relationship between level of education and income. You can definitely see the direct relationship there. You'll notice that associate degrees earn 20% less than baccalaureate degrees. Master's degrees earn 34% more than bachelor's degrees. And then doctoral professional degrees earn 120% more than bachelor's degrees. And keep in mind, this is not based off of assumptions or estimations. It's based off of real data where we've matched the graduation data with the labor data. So I want to mention, I'm going to show a few slides in bubble charts, and I want to kind of go over the concept of bubble charts with you. So as you look at these charts, the y-axis represents the average annual income. So keep that in mind. The x-axis across the bottom looks at average retention rate. So these are the students who remain in Alabama 5 years after graduation. You'll notice a red line that represents the median household income for Alabama, which is around $55,000. And then you'll see a series of bubbles. And you'll notice that larger bubbles represent more graduates. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's look at a few bubble charts, and I think bubble charts are a good way to graphically represent this information. So this looks at associate degrees, and again, this is for 2015 graduates, 5 years after graduation. And keep in mind that red line there is median household income. And these are those degrees. And I want to point out that these represent, at the associate level, these represent lower average salaries, right? But higher retention rates. And you'll notice here that mechanic technologies represent the highest salary level, followed by construction trades and followed by engineering technologies. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. These next few slides look at the baccalaureate degree levels. This is everybody. I want to point out a few things here. This is the highest earning disciplines out of those areas. You'll notice engineering, computer and information sciences, engineering technologies. 5 of the top 6 are in health or STEM. Okay, so those are the top 5 or 6 there. You'll notice math. Math was kind of blended in with business, the way the charts are kind of highlighted that. So that's the highest earning discipline. This is the lowest earning discipline. You'll see English languages, foreign languages, psychology, visual and performing arts. Again, this is 5 years after graduation for the 2015 graduating program. Any questions about that? Is that making sense to everybody? This is the group with the lowest retention rates. So look at engineering up there. That's a problem, right, for our state, because it's one of our higher incomes, but we're losing about half of those folks after 5 years. That's an issue. Social sciences, visual performing arts, those are all low disciplines with retention rates. The highest discipline rates. I want to point out health here. Health has a higher, not only a higher retention rate, but a higher salary as well, along with education and parks and recreation. Okay, any questions about those?
Doctor, where are you getting the source for the income?
We get it from Alabama's Department of Labor.
Yeah.
We get, that's a great question. We get a quarterly wage from them, and our methodology looks at we calculate an average annual salary. It's a great question.
Quick question on the engineering loss of personnel. Is there an explanation for that?
I think, so if you look at where we've conducted similar studies and we've looked at where our graduates are going, you'll notice that a number of our graduates are going to Texas, and just anecdotally, I'm going to assume that we're losing a lot of those engineering folks to the Texas petroleum industry, the Louisiana petroleum industry. And that's just, my assumption.
Or aerospace?
Aerospace could be part of it as well.
As we look at retain Alabama, are we bringing in those people back after a certain amount of time?
And so Dr. Purcell mentioned our recall project, and that's part of our efforts there is we're sending emails to these folks. We're reaching out to them through letters, and we know where they are, and we're trying to get them back. So,
Is it neat to bring them back?
it's a great question. I think so. I think up in Huntsville, I think there's some opportunity there. I think there's some opportunity around the Gulf Coast. We talk about the blue economy there. So I think there's some potential. This is definitely our highest earning group. And so from a workforce development standpoint, when we're losing 5 out of 10 of those folks after 5 years, to me, it's concerning. And this slide looks at both the baccalaureate and the associate levels brought together. And you can see here that with the associate levels, again, on average, they have a lower salary, but we do tend to keep most of those folks in the same. So with regard, these are some takeaways or some findings of the report. Alabama residents typically are more likely to remain in state at 3 times the rate of non-residents. The lower academic levels are, although they're more likely to remain in state, they tend to earn a lower average salary. And then with regard to salary, higher academic levels consistently earn higher levels. And as I mentioned earlier, graduates in STEM and health related degrees tend to have higher incomes. Any more questions?
No?
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hood. Thank you. All right, we'll next move into the decision items. Each decision item will be voted on individually. Any questions that you may have can be directed to the staff presenter. Our first decision item, number 1, will be presented by Dr. McGill. The first program will be from Alabama A&M University. Alabama A&M University, Dr. Pulaski in social work.
Thank you, Chairman Frost. It's a pleasure to be here again to present these new programs to you all. Our colleagues from Alabama A&M are here in case there should be any questions from the commission. We'll start off with the Doctor of Philosophy in Social Work. So this is a research-focused degree in the field of social work. It's explicitly intended to prepare future professors who would be teaching in the field of social work. And it would be one of 2 programs that would exist in the state. The other PhD in social work is over at the University of Alabama. University of Alabama also offers a Doctor of Social Work, which is a more practical focused doctorate. Commissioner Sermon, are you all right? Okay. You're good. Okay, I just saw an alarm look, so I thought I'd ask. All right, so this would be the second institution offering doctorate level social work programs. Alabama A&M does have thriving programs at the undergraduate level for a Bachelor of Social Work and its Master of Social Work program, which has been recognized very recently as one of the most innovative in the country, given its internship structure for one of its tracks. And so this program would also be unique at the doctoral level and being fully online. Those who are admitted do need to have a master's already in hand, given the way that licensure requirements already work in that field. And costs would be associated with 2 new faculty lines and a part-time staff line, as well as assistantships. The university does have 1 faculty line open that they would reallocate to this particular program. And given the work that needs to be done for accreditation, or excuse me, extending their work, because this won't actually get specialized accreditation, but preparing the hiring and curriculum, they're planning to implement in fall of 2024. So with that, AIC is recommending approval.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The next program presented by Dr. McGill will be from Auburn University at Montgomery, the Doctor of Education in Institutional Systems and Learning Sciences.
Great, thank you, Chairman Frost, and I'll note that Provost and some of the faculty from AUM and Dean are here in case there should be any questions about this particular program. All right, so this program in EdD, Doctor of Education, is structured to extend 2 existing educational specialist programs. So those are 1 level down. They typically occur in the field of education only and lead to certification. And AUM has been very successful in its EdS programs, one in instructional technology and the other in early childhood education. They do have other EdS programs that are not part of this proposal. But in addition to those EdS concentration areas, they are being unified with a core curriculum that focuses on education research and learning sciences, specifically around how individuals can use instructional technology to learn and differences in early childhood learning. Those learning outcomes for learning sciences will be woven through the concentrations in addition to the core. I should note that this program is above the instructional role that the commission recognizes for Auburn University of Montgomery, meaning right now AUM is a master's granting institution. They do have one practical doctorate program, which is the Doctor of Nursing practice. That's been very successful. They also participate in a joint PhD program with Auburn University that focuses on public administration and public policy. And this would be the first doctoral level offering for the College of Education. The program is offered 100% online. There will be some costs associated with it for hiring additional faculty, one each for the concentration areas, and then startup costs for recruitment and also specialized software. But the program does, and staff evaluation does seem to offer a strategic benefit through its focus on learning sciences. There are no NDs in learning sciences, and the way that that's integrated into the concentration areas. And therefore, staff is recommending approval for the program.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The next program presented by Dr. McGill will be from Jacksonville State University, the Bachelor of Science of Public, the Bachelor of Public Health in Public Health.
All right, thank you, Chairman Frost. Yes, these nomenclatures can sometimes be a mouthful. I will note that this program and the one immediately after it, you probably noticed there was a lot of similarity, and they should be in some ways considered as a package because Jacksonville State University, of course, who is here representing the programs, is developing a new suite of programs around public health. This is the university has offered as a minor coursework and has expertise in its Department of Kinesiology, but to date has not offered public health degrees, and so we'll be developing two at the same time at the bachelor's level and at the master's level. That means they're braiding resources together in some ways. So all in all, they're looking to hire 3 faculty members. 1 would be assigned to the undergraduate and 2 to the graduate programs. And so when you look at the costs, think about it as a kind of a package deal, for lack of a better way to put it. But looking specifically at the undergraduate program, the BPH in public health, JSU has structured the program so that it would fit with the expectations of specialized accreditation through the Council on Education for Public Health, which is the industry standard. And you can see we've added an extra post-implementation condition that requires progress toward that goal. And that certificate or accreditation means that the graduates of this program would be able to get national certification as certified health education specialists. And some of the coursework for this program, it won't require quite as much new coursework here because they already offer that minor, and they will be sharing some coursework with the Bachelor of Social Work and also sociology programs. This new coursework does include some work-based learning, 6 hours of internship for students going through the program. They be embedded in the community. Both proposals were accompanied by letters of support from external supporters in the region, potential employers, government entities who are emphasizing the importance of public health. So with that, staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Chair, entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Sorry.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The second program from Jacksonville State University, presented by Dr. McGill, will be the Master of Public Health in Public Health.
And I'll be quick on this one, because we talked a bit about it just a minute ago. So this is the second part of the package, the graduate level offering in public health. As I mentioned, I'll be seeking faculty associated with the graduate side because of the number of courses that need to be developed at the graduate level. Those courses will be organized into 2 concentration areas, rural public health and a generalist in public health. And the rural piece, obviously, Jacksonville being up in that northeast corner of the state, would certainly benefit the region. Like the undergraduate program, this would go through a specialized accreditation. The graduates,
As a result, would be eligible for industry recognized certification. And there will be new courses for work-based learning and field experience in public health. And with that, staff is recommending approval of the MPH in public health.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments?
I have a question for Dr. Hildenberg. Just curious. I mean, I love kind of funnel, starting certificate you have down. Now you're gonna have your bachelor, the master. So tell me a little bit about right now, health certificates program. How are you going to move these students through? I know you've got the goals that you have. But just curious.
Well, no, that's a great question. First thing, I, as especially been great leader, hire great people. So I will turn this over to our provost, who's the former dean of wellness, the former nurse, kind of her area expertise to lead you through that discussion.
So one of the things that we learned in this particular certificate in community health is that they are going elsewhere and exploring degrees such as MPH or even moving to bachelor's in public health. And just like everyone else is wanting to see the students start and finish at their institution, we recognize that was a gap. Now, I also have the dean and department head on the Zoom meeting, so they can give us exact numbers, but the numbers are what pushed us to move in this direction, as well as the survey of those students who wanted to see us get to a higher level.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment? I want to thank Dr. Purcell for the employment workforce meeting index and also Dr. Purcell for the graduation day, Labor Day, because these type of courses programs that could tie in together what we really state and where we must be workforce to be headed toward in terms of maintaining people and things like that. And I see it all coming together. Initially, I didn't see it, but the combination of I think is really crucial. The state of Alabama, so that we can grow our economy with diversified industries and keep more people.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The next program presented by Dr. McGill will be from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, the Bachelor of Science in Disability Studies and Rehabilitation Sciences.
Thank you, Chairman Frost.
So this
Undergraduate degree offered by the University of Alabama at Birmingham. If approved, it would extend offerings down to the undergraduate level. So this particular Department of Physical Therapy, UAB, already offers the Doctor of Physical Therapy, as well as a PhD in Rehabilitation Sciences. Right there, yeah. And that's the research focused degree, where the physical therapy is kind of the practical focused degree. Within the same college, but not the same department, is the Doctor of Occupational Therapy. And many students who are interested in going into those professional fields of rehabilitation science, physical occupational therapy, study something else as undergraduates, whether that be exercise science or kinesiology or sports management kinds of fields. And so UAB is looking to create a more specialist degree at the undergraduate level that links to training in rehabilitation sciences that focuses on rehabilitation for individuals who have physical disabilities and is a specialized track within those physical therapy training. So in terms of additional resources, there will be very little needed to run this program. New coursework would be developed, but there are only additional costs for staff. And given the caliber of the department, staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. Second program from the University of Alabama in Birmingham, presented by Dr. McGill, will be the Education Specialist in School Psychology.
All right, thank you, Chairman Frost. So this is an education specialist degree. That's that kind of in between the master's and a doctoral of education. These degrees do tend to lead to certification through the State Department of Education at the Class AA level. And that again is the highest level of certification that is offered in the field. This program is designed to lead to that Class AA certification in the area of school psychology. UAB already does have a master's level offering in school psychometry. Those are related fields. And this program would extend that to the slightly higher level. We did get several letters of support for the program, noting that there are shortages in school psychology and that having an additional program in the state would benefit students. And with that, staff is recommending approval for the program.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The next program presented by Dr. McGill will be from the University of Alabama in Huntsville, the Bachelor of Science in Business Administration in Analytics.
All right, thank you, Chairman Frost. So this BSBA will be housed in the College of Business. And that means it shares a business core curriculum with other BSBAs. But the field of study here would be analytics, which some other institutions have called data analytics or management science. And this is really that kind of big data as it applies to the world of business. The program is intended to lead to in-demand occupations for management analysts and marketing research analysts, data scientists, which you see are a really fast-growing occupation up in the Huntsville area. Given the demand in this particular field, there are certainly letters of support that accompanied the program, and staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The next program presented by Dr. McGill will be from the University of South Alabama, the Bachelor of Science in Organizational Leadership.
Excellent. Thank you, Chairman Frost. So this degree is one that I'm excited to present to you, partly because of the work that we have been doing. Dr. Purcell has mentioned around engaging adults to finish their bachelor's degrees. And this degree should be understood, I think, primarily as serving that audience, working professionals who have some undergraduate credit under their belt, but are looking for a way to apply that credit in a flexible way that speaks to their current work obligations. That's certainly not the only population that might pursue this, but the degree is designed to serve that population. So organizational leadership is housed This one is not in the College of Business, despite starting with a business CIP code. But this degree is kind of understood to be partner with the interdisciplinary studies degree, which allows a student to create a course of study that's completely their own. This one has a little bit more structure around leadership and some of those business competencies that makes it very appealing to employers who offer tuition reimbursement. And so far, at least as far as we could find, and maybe other, we'll get, comments after the meeting, we could only find one other institution that was offering a similar kind of college completion degree that has the focus on leadership, which is up at UAH in their College of Professional Studies. So given the advantages of the program and its low cost to implement, AIC is recommending approval.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve staff recommendation.
So.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The second program from the University of South Alabama, presented by Dr. McGill, will be the Master of Science in Cybersecurity.
Thank you, Chairman. So this program, I'll speak about it kind of briefly with the next item on the agenda, which is a substantive modification of existing master's offerings for USA. So similar to what we saw with JSU, they're kind of a package deal here. So University of South Alabama is reconfiguring its offerings within the College of Computing at that master's level to better align with what's going on at the undergraduate level and also with developments in the field of computing. So this initial one that we're looking at right now, the Master of Science in Cybersecurity, would be a new program offering within the college. The college already has expertise within this field and has been nationally recognized as a center of excellence in cyber defense, but they have not had a dedicated degree in the field. So there will be some development of new coursework, and it will also create that kind of more seamless pathway into the PhD in computing that is already offered. And there again are external funding support through the Science Foundation that this program would help to leverage. As you know, cyber defense is a growing field. That's true up in Huntsville, but it's also true down in that Gulf Coast corridor where we have a number of defense industries that are growing up down there. And this would allow the university to develop a more competitive student population in the field of cyber defense. All right, so with that, staff is recommending approval for the program.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The third program from the University of South Alabama, presented by Dr. McGill, will be the Master of Science in Computer and Information Systems, substantive modification.
Absolutely, thank you. And I briefly touched on this one a minute ago. So this is an existing offering at USA, which is a kind of unified MS in Computer and Information Sciences. Because the School of Computing at USA is very specialized, there is a Department of Computer Science and a Department of Information Systems. And those departments have largely been operating the concentrations for this degree in a completely separate way. So they are looking to separate those concentrations into 2 degrees. So there's 1 degree on the books that will ultimately go away. And if this is approved, then there will be replaced by 2 more detailed offerings. So the first would be a Master of Science in Computer Science, and the second would be the Master of Science in Information Systems. Both use existing coursework. They require no new resources to implement. And based on staff review of the current outcomes for students in terms of their graduation and enrollment requirements, it already meets the viability threshold for both programs. And so staff is recommending approval of this modification to create two programs.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the substitute modification recommended by the staff. Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The substantive, never say that, modification is approved. Fourth program from the University of South Alabama, presented by Dr. McGill, will be the Doctor of Philosophy in Exercise Science and Performance Nutrition.
Excellent. Okay, so the University of South Alabama, I should also have mentioned that they have representatives here, should there be any questions. Hopefully I did a good job of reading back there. So the Doctor of Philosophy in Exercise Science and Performance Nutrition, this would be offered to complement the Exercise Science Master's degree, which would be in kinesiology. So currently that program at the master's level has quite a few courses that are not offered regularly, because even though there are quite a few students, the specialized courses have not come up into the rotation. So the doctor degree will repurpose those courses that are already on the books, make them available to the doctoral level students. There will be an addition of coursework that's specifically at the doctoral level around dissertation preparation and research. This PhD program would be able to leverage those labs and external funding that already exists for the offerings at the master's level, which means that that would be more potentially generating additional resources for the program, because now your research faculty would have those doctoral students to help them conduct their research. USA has emphasized that this program has a unique focus on its combination of exercise science and that performance nutrition, though it is not intended to lead to professional certification as a nutritionist or dietitian, but more a holistic approach to individual health and its relationship to body movement. It does mean that their coursework would be extended, as we talked about from the master's, but also it gives a pathway for one of their top undergraduate majors in exercise science to advance toward doctoral education. Most of the admittees would have that master's degree already, and therefore those who are very competitive and might be admitted after a bachelor's degree would have to complete the master's before they go into the doctoral program. I mentioned that because that was a question that came up from one of our peer institutions who wanted to know about the pathways into the program to ensure it was competitive. All right, with that, staff is recommending approval for this program.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. Thank you, Dr. McGill. The next program will be presented by Mrs. Kristen White from Ingram State and Technical College, Certificate in Industrial Maintenance Technology.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioner Frost.
Good morning.
All right. This program will prepare graduates for entry-level employment with opportunities for career advancement in jobs such as machinery mechanics, millwrights, and maintenance workers. And all of these jobs are on this statewide in-demand list, the most current, the 22-23 version. This program will be built around the college's 3 existing stackable certificates, short-term certificates in basic industrial mechanics, millwright helper, and plant helper. Plus, they're going to add an additional 24 hours of core and general education classes. Now, this program is structured so that if students are transferred or released from the Department of Corrections before they've completed the full program, they will at least leave with 1 credential, which will help them in their job search. The graduates of the program will earn an OSHA 10 certificate, NCCER core certificate for construction workers, and an industrial safety training council certificate for forklift operations and safety. The program is not requiring any startup costs, but they are projecting $15,000 in additional resources in years 2, 4, and 6 to keep resources current for the program. They will cover these costs with community college workforce and special populations grants. And staff is recommending approval of this program.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and second to approve. Any questions or comments? All-
I'd like to say that you were saying, excellent job. Was it the first 2-year school within the prison system in the country?
It was, yes.
And I think that's really benefit this state.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, we have a second, a motion and a second. All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The next institutions have requested to amend post-implementation conditions, and they will be presented by Mrs. Kristen White. The first institution is Long Beach State Community College, Associate of Applied Science and Diagnostic Medical Sonography.
Okay, we are in December. You saw a lot of post-implementation reports on the agenda, and that's because we were doing kind of a cleanup project to go back through the last 15 or so years to pick up the programs that fell through the cracks and that we did not receive post-implementation reports for. So you will start to see a few more of these extension or amendment requests over the next few meetings. The first one is from Lawson State, and this program was approved in March of 2017. It was scheduled for implementation that fall, but was delayed until the following fall. It did not meet the minimum associate degree graduate requirement of 7.5. In addition, the school informed us that COVID played a part in setting back students on a correct schedule to graduate with this associate degree. The program did meet the average new enrollments required for the same period, and they have demonstrated that they've got enough students in the pipeline to meet that graduation requirement in 2 years. So they are requesting a 2-year extension for this program in order to meet the viability standards. So we are recommending approval of this post-implementation amendment request.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the requested extension recommended by the staff.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments?
I got a question. When do we reevaluate this? Is it yearly at this point?
So this particular program?
Yes, ma'am.
This one is a 2-year extension, so in 24.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
22, 23, 23, 24.
Okay.
Thank you. All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The requested extension is approved. The next institution presented by Mrs. Kristen White will be at the University of Alabama, Master of Arts in Religion in Culture. Modification is requested.
This program was approved in December 2016, and it was implemented on time in the fall of 2017. The program exceeded the minimum viability of required average graduates, but did not meet their projected average enrollment for the program. The university has shown that average new enrollments have exceeded the required minimum number of graduates, indicating that there is a sustainable pipeline of students. They are requesting to amend the original post-implementation conditions for new enrollments to reflect the actual enrollments that they received over the first 5 years of the program, and that this program be deemed viable going forward. And staff is recommending approval of this post-implementation amendment request.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the requested modification recommended by the staff.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments?
It's just 2 years again, that'll be reviewed.
Yes. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This one is actually, we're approving to accept it as is. We're amending, accepting their
No.
average enrollment with the 25% reduction that we allow was just one student less than what was required. So we are amending that to say, because they met their graduates. So we're amending this to accept the
One thing
program.
they didn't meet was the enrollment.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay. All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The requested modification is approved. The last institution presented by Mrs. Christian White will be the University of Alabama Doctor of Philosophy in Geography. Extension is requested.
Okay, this program again was approved in December 2016. It was implemented on time in fall 2017. It did not meet the minimum average doctoral graduate requirement of 2.25 students. The program has demonstrated strong enrollment throughout its first 5 years of the program, which exceeds the number of students.
Students required to build a sustainable program. The university has indicated there are enough students coming through the pipeline to meet the graduation requirement in 2 years. And they are requesting a 2-year extension in order to meet the graduate requirement for this program. And we are recommending approval of this post-implementation amendment request.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the requested extension recommended by the staff.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The requested extension is approved. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the information items. Items 1 through 7 are normally accepted or not accepted by the commission as a whole. Chair entertains a motion to accept the items collectively.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The items, the informational items are accepted. And I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. He is adjourned.
Outstanding.